Shattered Dreams. The glossy magazine spread featured Mason Sterling with his trademark half-smile, confident, calculated, and completely devoid of genuine warmth. At 36, Mason had built Sterling Innovations into a technological empire valued at billions, revolutionizing smart home technology across 3 continents. The headline proclaimed him the future maker, another accolade to add to his collection. Olivia Pierce closed the magazine with a sigh, tucking it beneath a stack of medical journals on her coffee table. Her fingers lingered momentarily on the cover before withdrawing. 5 years had passed, yet seeing his face still conjured an ache that time hadn't fully healed. "Mommy, James took my dinosaur!" The shout echoed from the playroom, followed by the thunder of small feet racing down the hallway. "Did not. It was mine first." Another voice, nearly identical but slightly deeper, protested. Olivia smiled despite her momentary melancholy. "Boys, what's our rule about sharing?" she called, rising from the couch in their modest but comfortable suburban home. 2 4-year-old boys skidded to a halt in front of her, both with unruly dark brown hair and striking gray eyes. Mason's eyes. James clutched a plastic Tyrannosaurus while Noah pointed accusingly at his brother. "He always gets the T-Rex," Noah complained, lower lip jutting out. Olivia knelt between them. "Noah, remember we take turns with special toys. James, your turn ends in 5 minutes, and then it's Noah's turn for 5 minutes. Deal?" The twins considered this judicial ruling, then nodded solemnly. "Timer starts now," Olivia said, tapping her watch. As the boys raced back to their play, Olivia caught her reflection in the hallway mirror. At 32, she still maintained the warm honey-blonde hair and hazel eyes that had once captivated Mason Sterling. Pediatric oncology had been her calling even before meeting him, and now as the head of her department at Children's Memorial, her dedication to healing sick children fulfilled her in ways Mason could never understand. Their romance had been intense, 18 months of whirlwind passion, intellectual connection, and eventually talk of future plans. Or rather, her plans. Mason had made his position abundantly clear that final night in his penthouse overlooking the city. "I don't want children, Liv. I've never hidden that from you." His voice had been calm, reasonable, as though discussing a business proposition rather than shattering her heart. "My parents' toxic marriage showed me everything I never want. I built this empire by dedicating every waking moment to my vision. A family would only dilute that focus." "Not everything is about maximizing efficiency, Mason," she'd argued, tears threatening. "Life isn't a business plan you can optimize." "For me, it is." He'd taken her hands then, his expression softening slightly. "I care for you deeply, but I can't be the man you need. The husband and father you deserve." What Mason hadn't known, what Olivia had only discovered herself 2 weeks prior, was that fate had already intervened. The pregnancy test results had been tucked away in her purse that very night. Words of revelation perched on her lips. His declaration had locked those words away permanently. She'd left his penthouse with dignity intact, never revealing her secret. When the twins were born, she'd considered contacting him, but each time she'd reached for the phone, she remembered his words. A family would only dilute that focus. Her boys deserved a father who wanted them wholeheartedly, not one who viewed them as inconvenient disruptions to his ambitions. The timer on her watch chimed. "James, Noah's turn with the dinosaur," she called. Tomorrow night was the annual Children's Memorial Charity Gala, their biggest fundraiser of the year. As department head, her attendance was mandatory. This year's primary sponsor was a last-minute addition, a tech company looking to improve its public image after recent criticism. The invitation on her counter confirmed it, Sterling Innovations. After 5 years of careful avoidance, fate was about to force a reunion she wasn't prepared for. Unexpected. Reunion. The Grand Wellington Hotel's ballroom sparkled with crystal chandeliers and the shimmer of designer gowns. Olivia smoothed the midnight blue silk of her dress, a rare indulgence purchased specifically for tonight's gala. Her colleague and closest friend, Dr. Vanessa Thornton, handed her a flute of champagne. "You look stunning, Liv," Vanessa said, her dark eyes assessing Olivia's nervous demeanor. "Though you seem distracted. Everything okay with the boys?" "They're fine. My neighbor Mrs. Harrington is watching them. Olivia sipped her champagne, eyes darting toward the entrance. It's just Sterling Innovations being tonight's sponsor was unexpected. Vanessa raised an eyebrow. Because of Mason Sterling? The one who broke your heart? The one whose eyes the twins have. Olivia nearly choked on her drink. How did you— Please. I've known you for 4 years. I've seen his picture in magazines. Those boys have his exact eyes, his jaw, even that little furrow when they concentrate. Vanessa squeezed her arm. You never had to confirm it for me to know. Before Olivia could respond, a hush fell over the crowd. Mason Sterling had arrived, commanding attention without effort. He looked essentially the same, tall and imposing in a perfectly tailored tuxedo, his dark hair showing just a touch of distinguished silver at the temples. His presence filled the room, drawing people toward him like satellites caught in a powerful orbit. I should go, Olivia whispered, setting down her glass. This was a mistake. Liv, you can't leave. You're representing the oncology department, Vanessa reminded her. Besides, what are the chances he'll even notice you among 300 guests? The hospital director's voice boomed through the speakers, welcoming everyone and thanking Sterling Innovations for their generous contribution to children's medical research. Mason approached the podium, his deep voice resonating as he spoke about technology's role in advancing pediatric medicine. Olivia kept to the periphery, half listening to his speech about innovation and healing. 5 years ago, he'd shown no interest in children's causes. Perhaps his priorities had shifted, or more likely his PR team had identified this as a beneficial image-building opportunity. As the formal portion concluded, Olivia made her way toward the terrace for fresh air. She'd nearly reached the doors when a server hurried past, accidentally bumping her shoulder. Olivia stumbled slightly, turning to regain her balance, and found herself looking directly into Mason Sterling's shocked gray eyes. Time seemed to stop. Recognition dawned immediately on his face, followed by something that looked almost like longing before his expression smoothed into careful neutrality. Olivia, he said, her name sounding both familiar and foreign on his lips. Mason, she managed a polite nod. Congratulations on your company's success. Thank you. His eyes never left her face. You look remarkable. An awkward silence stretched between them. 5 years of unspoken words creating an almost tangible barrier. I didn't expect to see you here, he finally said. I'm the head of pediatric oncology at Children's Memorial now. Something like pride flickered across his face. That's impressive. Though not surprising, you were always brilliant. Before she could respond, her phone vibrated. Glancing down, she saw Mrs. Harrington's name on the screen. Excuse me, I need to take this, she said, stepping away and answering with trepidation. Hello? Dr. Pierce, I'm so sorry to interrupt your evening. Mrs. Harrington's voice came through, slightly frantic. Noah has a fever of 101 and he's complaining about his ear hurting. James is upset because his brother is crying. I'll be right there, Olivia assured her, ending the call and turning to find Mason still watching her intently. I have to go, family emergency, she explained, already reaching for her clutch. Can I help? My driver is outside, he offered, surprising her. No, thank you. I have my car. She hesitated, then added, It was interesting seeing you again. As she hurried toward the exit, Mason followed. Olivia, wait. Could we talk sometime? Perhaps coffee? She paused, conflicted. I don't think that's a good idea. Please, just 30 minutes. Something in his expression, a vulnerability she'd rarely glimpsed during their relationship, made her hesitate. I really have to go now. At least take my card. My personal number is on the back. She accepted it mechanically, slipping it into her clutch before hurrying toward the valet stand. Mason remained on the steps watching as she departed. 20 minutes later, Olivia rushed through her front door to find Mrs. Harrington holding a whimpering Noah. James sat nearby, his little face pinched with worry for his twin. Mommy's here now, Olivia soothed, taking Noah into her arms and pressing her lips to his forehead. Definitely feverish. After examining Noah's ear and administering children's ibuprofen, she thanked Mrs. Harrington and settled both boys in her bed. James insisted on staying close to his brother. their small hands intertwined even as Noah drifted to sleep. "Mommy, will Noah be okay?" James whispered. "Yes, sweetheart. Probably just an ear infection. We'll see Dr. Wei tomorrow," she reassured him, stroking his hair. As both boys finally slept, Olivia changed out of her gown and removed Mason's business card from her clutch. She traced her finger over the embossed lettering, remembering his expression when he'd seen her. Shock, yes, but something more complex had followed. Her phone chimed with a text from an unknown number. "I hope everything is all right with your family emergency. It was good seeing you tonight, Olivia. Mason." He must have gotten her number from the hospital's contact information. Olivia stared at the message, fingers hovering over the keyboard. Before she could decide whether to respond, Noah stirred restlessly. She set the phone aside, turning her attention to her son, their son, and wondering how long she could keep the truth hidden now that Mason had re-entered their orbit. The night stretched long as she watched over her boys, her mind replaying the moment Mason's eyes had locked with hers, wondering if he had seen himself reflected in her life, even without knowing it. Bridges to build. 3 days after the gala, Olivia sat in a quiet corner of Riverside Park watching the twins race along the playground equipment. Noah had recovered quickly from his ear infection, his energy fully restored. The autumn sun painted golden highlights in their dark hair as they climbed and jumped with the fearlessness of 4-year-olds. Her phone buzzed with another text from Mason, the 5th since their encounter. Each message had been carefully polite, gently persistent, asking for just 30 minutes of her time. She hadn't responded to any of them, unsure what to say or whether meeting him would only complicate the delicate balance of her family life. "Hiya, James," Noah called as his brother scaled the rope ladder. "Watch me, Mommy," James shouted, reaching the platform and waving triumphantly. Olivia waved back, her smile genuine despite her preoccupation. Her boys had brought joy she never could have imagined, their personalities distinct yet complementary. James, thoughtful and methodical. Noah, impulsive and creative, both fiercely loyal to each other, both carrying pieces of Mason in their mannerisms, though they'd never met him. They're remarkable children. The voice behind her sent a jolt through her body. She turned to find Mason standing there, hands in the pockets of his casual slacks, looking oddly vulnerable without his usual power suit. The designer jeans and charcoal cashmere sweater still screamed wealth, but the carefully controlled CEO persona had softened. "What are you doing here?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "You wouldn't answer my texts." He sat beside her on the bench, maintaining a respectful distance. "I asked Vanessa where I might find you. She was reluctantly helpful. You had no right—" "I know." His eyes fixed on the playground. "But I needed to see you, to talk to you." His gaze locked onto the twins, and she saw recognition dawn in his expression. "They're yours." "Yes. How old are they?" She swallowed hard. 4.5. Mason's breathing changed, became more deliberate as he did the mental calculation. 4.5 years. That would mean... Yes. No point in denying it now. They're mine. Not a question, but a revelation spoken so softly it might have been to himself. Olivia watched his face cycle through emotions: shock, disbelief, hurt, and something that looked almost like wonder. "Why didn't you tell me?" His voice remained controlled, but she could hear the strain beneath it. "You made your position very clear that night. A family would only dilute that focus, remember?" She kept her voice low, conscious of nearby parents. "You didn't want children. You didn't want the life I wanted." "You should have told me anyway. I had a right to know." "And then what, Mason? Would you have changed your mind about everything you believed? Or would you have offered financial support while remaining essentially absent?" She shook her head. "I wanted my children to have a father who cherished them, not one who saw them as obligations." Before he could respond, Noah spotted them and came running over, James close behind. "Mommy, I'm thirsty," Noah announced, then noticed Mason. His gray eyes, identical to the man beside her, widened with curiosity. "Who are you?" Mason seemed momentarily paralyzed, staring at the small version of himself standing expectantly before him. "This is Mr. Sterling," Olivia said carefully. "He's an old friend of mine." James approached more cautiously, studying Mason with a thoughtfulness beyond his years. "You look like the man on Mommy's magazine." Mason's lips curved into a tentative smile. "That might have been me. I'm in magazines sometimes. Are you famous?" Noah asked, instantly fascinated. "Not really. I just make things that people use." Mason's typically confident voice had acquired an uncertain edge. "What's your name?" "I'm Noah Pierce. That's my brother James. We're twins, but I'm 7 minutes older." "That's quite a head start," Mason replied, his voice softening as he looked from one boy to the other. "It's very nice to meet you both." James tilted his head. "Your eyes look like our eyes." Olivia tensed, but Mason handled the observation with unexpected grace. "Yes, I noticed that too. What a coincidence." She retrieved water bottles from her bag, giving herself a moment to regain composure. "Boys, why don't you drink something and then play for a few more minutes?" "I need to talk to Mr. Sterling." The twins accepted their drinks and, after a few more curious glances at Mason, raced back to the playground. "They're extraordinary," Mason said quietly. "Intelligent, observant. Yes, they are. The one who noticed my eyes, James." "He seems analytical." "He is." Noah jumps in head first. James tests the water. Olivia watched them climbing again, though they balance each other perfectly. An uncomfortable silence stretched between them until Mason finally spoke. "I want to know them, Olivia." She turned to face him directly. "Why? You were very clear about not wanting children in your life." "That was before I knew they existed. Before I saw them." His gaze remained fixed on the boys. "I've made many decisions in my life with absolute certainty. This is the first time I've questioned one so fundamentally." "They're not a business opportunity you can suddenly decide to invest in, Mason. They're children who've never had a father. I can't let you walk into their lives only to walk back out when it becomes inconvenient." "I understand your concerns," he said, his voice taking on the measured tone she recognized from negotiations. "I'm not asking to disrupt their lives or take over. I'm asking for a chance to know my sons and for them to know me, whatever capacity you think is appropriate." Olivia considered his words carefully. "And what happens when you realize fatherhood interferes with running your empire?" "I don't know," he admitted, the rare vulnerability catching her off guard. "But I'd like the opportunity to find out." She watched the twins playing, their laughter carrying across the playground. They deserved to know their father, but on terms that protected their emotional well-being. "We'll start small," she finally said. "Supervised visits. No overnight stays yet. And we don't tell them you're their father until I'm confident this isn't a passing phase for you." Relief washed over his face. "Thank you. I'll follow your lead completely." As they exchanged contact information and discussed logistics, Olivia wondered if she was making a terrible mistake. The boys came running back, full of stories about their playground adventures, addressing them to both adults as though Mason had always been part of their circle. Watching him listen with genuine interest to their excited chatter, Olivia caught a glimpse of what might have been, and perhaps what still could be, if Mason Sterling truly was capable of change. Foundations of trust, and then the dinosaur goes roar. Noah demonstrated his best tyrannosaur impression, arms transformed into tiny but fearsome claws as he stomped around Mason's living room. James, ever the scientist at 4.5, corrected him. "T-Rexes had little arms, Noah. Like this." He tucked his arms close to his body, earning a giggle from his brother. Mason sat cross-legged on the floor among scattered dinosaur figurines, his $1,000 suit pants collecting dust as he held a stegosaurus with surprising reverence. 6 weeks of carefully orchestrated playdates had slowly transformed the sleek minimalist penthouse. Colorful plastic toys now lived in a dedicated chest. Child-friendly snacks filled a pantry shelf. Framed dinosaur illustrations had replaced abstract art on one wall, a suggestion from James that Mason had immediately implemented. From the kitchen doorway, Olivia observed the scene with conflicted emotions. Mason's dedication had surprised her. He'd rearranged board meetings, delegated overseas trips, and even installed child safety locks without prompting. The changes went beyond the physical space. Mason himself seemed different. More patient, more present, more willing to set aside his phone when the boys were speaking. "Mr. Mason, did you know dinosaurs had feathers?" James asked, arranging his collection in taxonomic order. "Some did," Mason replied seriously. "The ones related to modern birds, like velociraptors." Noah crashed his raptor into Mason's stegosaurus. "Exactly." Mason grinned, then checked his watch. "We have time for one more game before dinner arrives. What would you like to play?" "Hide and seek," the twins chorused. Mason looked to Olivia for approval. These small deferences to her parental authority had gradually earned her trust. "Go ahead," she said. "I'll help set the table." While Mason counted dramatically, the boys scurried off giggling. Olivia arranged plates on Mason's dining table, which now featured booster seats on 2 chairs. The domesticity of the scene wasn't lost on her. They'd fallen into a rhythm that felt dangerously like family. Mason passed her, whispering, "Any hints on their favorite hiding spots?" His conspiratorial smile triggered memories of their past. How that same smile had once been reserved for moments of private connection between them. "You're on your own," she replied, fighting a smile. "Consider it a fatherhood test." His expressions softened at the word fatherhood, and he squeezed her hand briefly before continuing his exaggerated search, calling out teasing warnings that sent the hidden boys into fits of suppressed giggles. Later, after pizza and ice cream, the inevitable question arose as it always did at evening's end. "Can't we stay longer?" Noah pleaded, clinging to Mason's leg. "It's a school night," Olivia reminded them gently. "We need to get home for bath time and stories." "Mr. Mason tells good stories," James observed, his gray eyes, so like his father's, serious and analytical. "He could come tell us stories at our house." Mason and Olivia exchanged glances. Another moment of unexpected co-parenting communication passing between them. "Maybe another time," Mason said, kneeling to the boys' level. "I have an early meeting tomorrow, but I'll see you this weekend, remember? We're going to the Natural History Museum." The reminder appeased them enough for goodbyes. As Olivia helped them into their jackets, Mason gathered their backpacks. Slipping in small dinosaur books he'd found, a paleontologist-approved set with accurate information that would appeal to James's scientific mind and colorful illustrations for Noah's artistic sensibilities. "What time Saturday?" he asked Olivia as the boys raced to the elevator, eager to push the button. 10. I'll drop them off." She hesitated. "Unless you'd prefer I stay too." "Actually," Mason began carefully, "I was hoping you might join us. Not as supervision, but because I'd like you there." The invitation hung between them, weighted with unspoken meaning. Their interactions had remained strictly about the boys, both carefully avoiding any hint of rekindling their personal relationship. "I have errands," she hedged. "Liv." He used her old nickname for the first time since their reunion. "We should talk. About us." "There is no us, Mason. There's just 2 people co-parenting. Is that all this is?" His voice dropped lower. "Because sometimes when you look at me, I see—" "Don't." She stepped back. "The boys are doing well with this arrangement. Let's not complicate things." "Mommy, the elevator's here," Noah called. Mason walked them to the elevator, high-fiving each boy and reminding them about Saturday. As the doors closed, Olivia caught his expression, a mixture of longing and determination that followed her all the way home. Saturday at the museum unfolded with unexpected harmony. Mason had arranged a private tour with a curator who specialized in dinosaurs, much to the twins' delight. Watching him interact with the boys, answering questions, encouraging their curiosity, sharing in their wonder, Olivia found herself revisiting her assumptions about the man she'd once loved. During a quiet moment, while the boys pressed their faces against the glass of a fossil exhibit, Mason turned to her. "I've been thinking about our future," he said without preamble. "Mason, just listen, please." His voice held none of the commanding tone he used in boardrooms. "These past weeks have changed me. The boys have changed me. And being around you again—" He paused, collecting his thoughts. I've reorganized my entire company structure, delegated more authority, established reasonable working hours. Why? Because I want to be present for them, and because I want another chance with you. Olivia shook her head. You can't just decide to want a family now because the reality looks appealing. What happens when it gets difficult? When business demands conflict with school plays or sick days? I've already faced that test, he reminded her. 3 weeks ago, when Noah had that stomach bug, I canceled my flight to Tokyo to help care for him. She remembered Mason arriving at her door with electrolyte popsicles and a stuffed dinosaur, spending the day helping with cleanup and entertaining James so she could focus on Noah. One crisis doesn't prove I love them. Olivia. The simple declaration silenced her. I didn't know it was possible to love anyone this completely, this quickly. And I never stopped loving you. Before she could respond, James tugged at Mason's hand. Mr. Mason, Noah says T-Rexes could swim, but I think they couldn't. Who's right? Mason knelt to his son's level. That's an excellent question. Let's find the curator and ask, shall we? As he led James away, Noah slipped his small hand into Olivia's. Mommy, is Mr. Mason going to be at our house more now? Why do you ask, sweetheart? Because he looks at you like Prince Charming looks at Cinderella in our book. And because... He leaned closer, whispering conspiratorially, James and me think maybe he's our daddy. His eyes are just like ours. Olivia's heart stuttered. Out of the mouths of babes. Would you like it if he was? She found herself asking. Noah nodded solemnly. He makes really good dinosaur voices. And he makes you smile the big smile. As Mason returned with James, deep in conversation about dinosaur swimming abilities, Olivia watched them with new eyes, wondering if perhaps the foundation they were building might be strong enough after all. Full-circle winter descended on the city, transforming the urban landscape into a wonderland of white. 3 months had passed since the museum visit, each week bringing more integration between their previously separate lives. The twins now spent Wednesday evenings and every other weekend at Mason's penthouse, though Olivia no longer called it that. The boys had renamed it the Dino Den, after Mason converted his home office into an elaborate dinosaur-themed playroom. Tonight marked a significant milestone. For the first time, Mason would be joining them at Olivia's house for the twins' birthday celebration, their 5th. The small suburban home felt different with Mason's presence, as though the very walls were adjusting to accommodate this new family dynamic. In the kitchen, Olivia arranged dinosaur-shaped sandwiches while Mason assembled the birthday cake they'd ordered, 3 tiers of prehistoric landscapes complete with edible vegetation and miniature dinosaurs. The boys were in the backyard with Vanessa, burning off excitement before guests arrived. Should the T-Rex go on top or the Stegosaurus? Mason asked, holding both figurines. One of each, Olivia suggested. Noah loves the T-Rex, but James would be devastated if his favorite didn't make the summit. Mason smiled, carefully positioning both dinosaurs. They've taught me so much about balance. About compromise. His eyes met hers across the counter. About what really matters. They have a way of clarifying priorities, she agreed, trying to maintain the careful friendship they'd established. It's not just them. Mason set down the cake decorations. It's you, Liv. Watching you with them, your patience, your wisdom, your unconditional love, it's helped me understand what I was missing, what I was afraid of. Before she could respond, the doorbell rang, announcing the first-party guests. The moment slipped away as the house filled with excited 5-year-olds and their parents, many meeting Mason for the first time. Olivia noticed how he introduced himself simply as Mason, rather than with his usual credentials. How he engaged sincerely with other parents rather than dominating conversations. The party whirled by in a blur of games, presents, and cake. As evening approached and guests departed, a peaceful exhaustion settled over the household. The twins, despite sugar-fueled energy, finally succumbed to the day's excitement, falling asleep amid their new toys in the living room. Mason carefully lifted Noah while Olivia gathered James in her arms. Without discussion, they carried the boys to their bedroom, tucking them in with synchronized movements that spoke of practiced co-parenting. They didn't even make it to story time, Mason whispered as they slipped out, leaving the dinosaur nightlight glowing softly. Birthday exhaustion, Olivia replied, leading the way to the kitchen where party debris awaited them. They'll be up at dawn, ready to play with everything. They cleaned in companionable silence until Mason spoke. I've been wanting to show you something. Can we sit for a minute? Curious, Olivia joined him at the kitchen table. Mason pulled out his phone, opening an email that he passed to her. What am I looking at? She asked, scanning the business correspondence. The final paperwork for Sterling Innovations restructuring. He pointed to specific paragraphs. I've transitioned to executive chairman. Ellie Richardson, my COO, is taking over as CEO. Olivia looked up, surprised. You're stepping down? Why? Not stepping down, stepping back. Creating space for what matters most. His expression was earnest, vulnerable. I'll still guide overall strategy, but no more 80-hour weeks. No more international trips every month. Mason, you don't have to. I want to, he interrupted gently. But that's not all. He pulled another document from his jacket pocket, a property listing. I've made an offer on this house. It's 10 minutes from here in the same school district. Olivia studied the listing, a beautiful family home with a large yard. You're moving out of the penthouse? The boys need grass under their feet, not marble floors 60 stories up. He hesitated. And I thought, proximity might make our arrangement easier. More spontaneous dinners, less driving time between homes, understanding dawned. You're really committing to this? To them. To all of us, if you'll let me. Mason reached for her hand across the table. I know I don't deserve another chance. I know my initial rejection hurt you deeply, but these past months have shown me what truly builds an empire worth having. Olivia looked into his eyes, the same eyes that watched her with trust and love from their sons' faces each day. The boys have started asking questions about why you and I live separately, about why their friends have daddies who live at home. What have you told them? That families come in different forms, that we care about each other but live in different houses. She took a deep breath. But yesterday, James asked outright if you were their father. They figured it out, Mason. He nodded slowly. And what did you say? I told them we would talk about it after their birthday. She squeezed his hand. I think it's time for the truth. Relief washed over his features. I want them to know. I want to be their father in every sense of the word, not just biologically, but present, involved, committed. And us? Olivia asked softly. What do you want there? Mason's thumb traced circles on her palm. I want to rebuild what we had, but stronger this time, with a foundation that won't crack under pressure. I've loved you through all these years, Liv. Even when I didn't know about the boys, even when I thought I'd never see you again. He reached into his pocket once more, withdrawing a small velvet box. I'm not proposing, not yet. That would be presumptuous after everything. But this is a promise. He opened the box to reveal a simple silver key. A key to the new house. It belongs to all of you whenever you're ready. No pressure, no timeline. Olivia stared at the key, unexpected tears blurring her vision. You've changed because of you. Because of them. He closed the box, setting it on the table between them. Take all the time you need. From the hallway came the padding of small feet. Noah appeared in the doorway, rubbing his eyes sleepily. Mommy, Mr. Mason. I had a dream. They both rose, parental instincts immediately engaged. What kind of dream, buddy? Mason asked gently. Noah climbed onto Mason's lap without hesitation. We were all dinosaurs. You were the daddy dinosaur, and Mommy was the mommy dinosaur, and me and James were the baby dinosaurs. And we all lived in the same nest. Olivia's eyes met Mason's over their son's head, a silent communication passing between them. That sounds like a nice dream, she said softly. Can we? Noah asked innocently. Be like the dinosaur family? Mason looked to Olivia, careful not to overstep. She nodded almost imperceptibly. Noah, Mason began, his voice thick with emotion. There's something important I want to tell you. Something for you and James to know tomorrow when you're both awake. What is it? Noah mumbled, already drifting back to sleep against Mason's chest. I'm your daddy, he whispered, pressing a kiss to his son's dark hair. I've always been your daddy, even when I didn't know it yet. Noah's eyes fluttered open briefly, a sleepy smile crossing his face before he murmured, "I know," and fell back asleep. 1 year later, the backyard of the new house bustled with activity. The twins raced through the sprinkler, shrieking with delight as water droplets caught the summer sunlight. Mason manned the grill, engaged in animated conversation with Vanessa and her husband. Olivia watched from the patio, her hand absently resting on her rounded belly. Their daughter, already named Lily, would arrive in just 2 months, entering a family that had finally found its rhythm. The journey hadn't been smooth. There had been difficult conversations, moments of doubt, professional adjustments on both sides. Mason had temporarily lost a major client when he refused to cancel James's school play for an emergency meeting. Olivia had struggled to trust that his transformation was permanent, waiting for the workaholic to re-emerge. But instead of reverting to old patterns, Mason had proven his commitment daily in countless small ways, reading bedtime stories even after exhausting days, learning to cook dinosaur-shaped pancakes, attending every parent-teacher conference, moving their relationship forward with patience until, 6 months ago, Olivia had finally moved her belongings into their shared home. The simple silver band on her finger caught the sunlight as she raised her hand to wave at the boys. Not an extravagant diamond, she'd refused that, but a symbol of their unconventional journey, inscribed with the coordinates of the park where they'd reconnected. "Daddy, watch this," Noah called, executing a perfect cannonball into the small pool they'd installed. Mason applauded enthusiastically before catching Olivia's eye across the yard. His smile, once reserved for business victories, now came easily and genuinely whenever he looked at her or their sons. The twins ran to her, dripping wet and full of excitement about their latest discovery, a bird's nest in the oak tree. As they spoke over each other, competing for her attention, Mason joined them, handing her a glass of lemonade. "Slower, one at a time," he reminded the boys gently. "Mom needs to hear both your stories." The easy way he said, "Mom," the natural authority in his voice, the love in his eyes as he gazed at their family, these were the final pieces of evidence that Olivia had needed. This wasn't the same Mason who had once declared family a distraction from empire building.